Welcome to my channel, Crafts with Goddess. Today I'll be showing you how to make this beautiful, unique pendant. If you do find you are enjoying my videos, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm going to use one of these agate beads. They come in a variety of colors and I find they're really pretty. And I think I will use this pink one. The copper wire I'm going to use is this rose gold colored copper wire, and the brand is Wire Elements by the Beadsmiths, and I'm going to use gauges 20 and 26. The tools you'll need are nylon jaw pliers, round nose pliers, precision needle nose pliers, flush wire cutters, and I'm going to use the bail making tool, but this is optional. Using the 20 gauge wire and working off the reel, I'm going to measure out 23 centimeters. But before I cut the wire, I'm going to use my nylon jaw pliers to straighten it. It doesn't have to be perfect, just straight enough to work with. I'm going to trim it, and I want about 3 pieces of wire in this length. So the 20 gauge wire is the thicker of the 2 wires, so this will be my base wire, and the 26 gauge is my weaving wire, and I always work off the reel. I'm going to start my weave by attaching it around 4 centimeters on one of my base wires. I'm starting this by placing the weaving wire under the base wire and wrapping over it 3 times. I'm going to tighten this with my precision needle nose pliers. Add another base wire and wrap the weaving wire over both of them. Now add the third base wire and wrap over all 3 of the wires. I'm just going to space the wires out so it's a little easier to work with. Now wrap over the bottom 2 base wires and then over the bottom wire 3 times. It looks like a little pyramid, and this is the first part of this pattern. The next part is actually very similar. Wrap the bottom base wire 3 times. So the next part, I'm just going to wrap over the bottom 2 base wires, and this time you want to bring the weaving wire up between those 2 wires and then wrap over the top 2 base wires. Bringing that weaving wire under all of the base wires, and now wrap the bottom two again. And ending with the bottom one, just wrapping that one 3 times. If you have a close look, you can actually see the difference between the two styles. I'm going to repeat this set in my pattern, but you could choose to do either one of them and just repeat that pattern. But I like the variations, so I'm going to continue with this set. So again, start the set by wrapping over the bottom 2 base wires, bringing your weaving wire under all the base wires and wrapping over all 3. Bring that wire back underneath all the base wires and wrap it over the bottom 2 base wires again. Then wrap the bottom base wire 3 times. Now wrap over the bottom 2 base wires. This time bringing your weaving wire up between those 2 wires. And then wrap over the top 2 base wires. Bringing that weaving wire under all the base wires. Now wrap the bottom 2 again. And bring your weaving wire under the base wires and wrapping that bottom one 3 times. I'm going to tighten my work with the nylon jaw pliers, just pressing down gently and pushing in the end slightly to the left. And this completes the second set of my pattern. And I'm just going to repeat this pattern. I'm going to tighten my work with the nylon jaw pliers, just pressing down gently. And pushing in the end slightly to the left. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets. And leaving this still attached to the reel, I'm going to add my agate bead to the bottom base wire. And I'm just going to bend this wire at 90 degrees and turn my work. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this wire go up like this. And move that out of the way. These 2 wires are going to go around the bead, so I'm going to work another weaving pattern on these 2 wires only. This is going to work around this bead and come up, and then these base wires are going to overlap later like this, but we don't have to worry about that for now. I'm just going to see how long I need the weave to go around the bead, so roughly to about there. So that'll be where I'll add it back to the other base wire For me, it's this is 3 centimeters. So depending on what size your bead, the bead you have, this can vary. Now I'm just going to remove my bead so it doesn't fall off while I'm weaving my new pattern. So work the weaving wire over the base wire, then over both wires, bring that weaving wire up between the 2 wires, and then wrap that top one once. So again, bringing that weaving wire behind both base wires, wrap over the bottom wire only, and then wrap over both wires, bringing that weaving wire up between the 2 base wires and wrapping that top base wire once again. And I'm going to repeat this pattern for that 3 centimeters, or whatever length you have determined you need to wrap around that bead. And I'm going to end this pattern with this weaving wire on the outer base wire, and this is because of the way I'm going to work this back with the other base wire that's got the bead attached to it. Okay, so let's wrap that top one once again. Now put the bead back onto the base wire and bend it up another 90 degrees. Gently bring this around, following the shape of the bead, and let's marry it up to the other side. I don't want too much of a gap underneath the bead, so I might just unravel a little bit of my work here. Yeah, so I'm thinking I'll unravel about 2 lots of my repeats. So just slowly and gently unravel some, and I'm going to straighten the weaving wire as I unravel. I still want to end the weave on the outer base wire, and I'm just going to adjust the shape so it looks nice. Don't forget that this is going to end up overlapping over here, so as we move this over, this will move up slightly. I'm going to turn my work around like this, and now the bottom base wire is the same base wire that's holding the bead. I'm going to secure this base wire by bringing my weaving wire under all of the base wires and wrapping that bottom one 3 times. I'm just going to move these so that they're slightly separated. I'm going to continue with my pyramid pattern set that I did on the other side, but this time I'm going to do it, or start the set in the opposite way, so that the way that it ended on the other side will be what I'm starting on this side. Start by wrapping over the bottom 2 base wires, bringing the weaving wire up between those 2 base wires, and wrapping over the top 2 base wires. Work the weaving wire under all of these wires and wrapping the bottom 2 again. And wrap the bottom base wire 3 times. Now wrap over the bottom 2 base wires. Bring your weaving wire behind all the base wires, wrapping over all 3. And then over the bottom 2 again. And wrapping that bottom base wire 3 times. Now use your nylon jaw pliers if you need to neaten your work, and just do it gently. Continue this pattern for another 7 sets, so it's matching to the other side. Now that you have 7 sets on both sides, I'm just going to see where this is going to overlap. I'm just going to trim this end. And I'm going to use my precision needle nose pliers to twist the end in the same direction that the wrap is going. And I'm just going to feel with my fingers to see if anything's poking out. So here is where these are going to overlap, and I'm going to wrap this around like that, but we don't have to overlap these yet. So I'm going to do another pattern here. I'm going to do a wavy weave for this part. So I'm going to end the last pattern with the 3 bottom base wraps. So this is even with the other side. To start the wavy pattern, I'm going to work over the bottom 2 base wires twice. I'm going to bring the weaving wire up between those 2 base wires and then wrap over the top 2 base wires twice. making sure that the weaving wire is going up between the two bottom base wires as you're doing that wrap. Now wrap that top base wire twice, making sure your work is nice and tight. Wrap over the top two base wires again twice, making sure that the weaving wire is going up between the two bottom base wires as you're doing that wrap. Now bring your weaving wire underneath all the wires and wrap the bottom two base wires twice again. And then end this pattern by wrapping that bottom base wire twice again. And I'm just going to continue this pattern. I'm just going to see where I want this to overlap. I want this one over the top. And I'm just making sure that these wires aren't bending funny. I want them to be flat. So I'm just going to gently move these wires around and make this go underneath the other one. So making this shape. I'm just going to keep turning this, making sure that everything is flat, and I'm going to overlap and tuck these behind. And it's going to end up looking like this, like a figure eight. I'm going to trim this weaving wire now. Tucking in anything that's poking out with my precision needle nose pliers. I'm going to tuck these base wires around the frame here, and I'm going to use the needle nose pliers again to help me. I'm just going to move this out of the way. I'm going to wrap these around one at a time. And I'm just going to see how this is sitting. Making sure that everything is still flat. This will secure the base wires to the frame, and I'm going to just tighten them to the frame. I'm going to move these wires over the frame, and using my round nose pliers, I'm going to twist the bottom wire into a little spiral. I'm going to go around this way, grab the end and twist a little, and just adjust where I'm holding the wire. And I'm going to adjust where I'm holding the wire with the pliers and just keep twisting in sections to keep a smooth curve and create a nice little spiral. I'm going to move the other 2 wires around the back and then trim them and just push them under. I'm going to move the outer wire to hold this in place. It's just going around the back like this, and I'm going to bring it up on the other side. And I'm going to bring it up this way on this side, and I'm going to wrap it around a few times. I'm going to guide the wire with my precision needle nose pliers in the direction that I want. I want this to be tight so it holds its shape and it doesn't move. You can see it's loose here, so I'm going to keep pulling the wire. I'm going to wrap it again just to secure it. And I'm going to push down slightly. I'm just moving this so I can adjust this again. And this is going to hold its shape now. And I'm going to tuck this one under these here, so I'm going to trim it a little and use this to tuck it under. It's underneath these 3 wires. And now it won't get caught on anything. So these last 2 wires, I'm going to make something decorative here. So I'm going to wrap this outer wire. And I'm going to wrap it a good few centimeters with the weaving wire. So you can start at the middle. As you wrap more, you can move this down. But before I do that, I will tuck in the end so that I don't have to deal with it later. Continue to wrap. So to determine how much I want to wrap this wire, I'm going to start to move the inner wire, and I'm just going to do this with my fingers. So I want to trim it around here. And I'm going to use my round nose pliers and tuck in the end. Pinching the very tip and twisting it into place. Sorry, it's a little difficult to see. Now I'm going to move the outer wire in the same direction, working alongside this spiral. So this is about the right length for the weave. I'm going to use some of the weaving wire to secure the two wires to the frame. So I'm going to trim this now and leave some length to work with. I'm going to wrap this under like this and bring it up here and wrapping around both wires, and this will hold everything in place. I want to wrap this here twice. And make sure that the weave isn't overlapping. And I'm going to wrap this around the base wire again about 4 times, and then this will be secure enough that I can trim it and tuck it in. Now I'm going to trim the base wire, holding the end so it doesn't fling into my eye. I'm going to twist the end and just move this so that it looks nice. Adjusting the other wire if you need. And I don't want anything sticking out because I don't want it to get caught on anything. And I'm going to secure this side as well. I'm just going to get a small length of my weaving wire and I'm going to wrap the base wire by tucking the weaving wire anywhere through the weave on the frame. It doesn't really matter where it is because you won't see it. You just want to secure this, and I'm going to do this a few times, just pulling it through any of the spots where it'll let the wire go through with ease. And then wrap around any of these base wires a few times to secure it. Trim it and tuck in the ends. I'm going to wrap the front of the weave around the base wire a few times as well. I guess I should have done this first before I started to secure the wire, as it would have been easier. Now for the last thing, I'm just going to make a jump ring so that the pendant sits nicely when you add it to a necklace. So grabbing the 20 gauge wire, I'm going to use my bail making pliers here, but you can use round nose pliers. My round nose pliers aren't actually the right size for the jump ring that I want to make. So wrap it around, and where it overlaps, I'm going to trim it. Open it up and put this through and close it back up. If you have 18 gauge wire, I would recommend using that instead because it's a bit thicker and it will be more sturdy. But for now, this is fine. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Like my video if you found it useful, and leave a comment if you gave it a try. Don't forget to subscribe. See you all next time. Bye!